The reading today is kind of confusing. Sometimes Jesus speaks in what they call hyperbole. It's exaggeration for the sake of making a point. Whenever you hear him say, "Amen, amen, I say to you," he's really accentuating a point. And in the same way, sometimes he'll say things like, "If your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. Better to go into heaven with one eye than to go into hell with both eyes." Does he want us to pluck our eyes out? No. Does he want us to never call our parents father and mother? No. Even in the scriptures, St. Paul says, "You have many spiritual leaders, but you only have one father spiritually. That's me." And in other places in the Acts of the Apostles, it talks about Abraham, our father in faith. And another place, Paul calls Isaac his father spiritually. What he's saying is, don't be too quick to follow the lead of someone who doesn't practice what they preach, to call somebody your teacher or rabbi, and to follow them if they're leading you somewhere astray. It's so important that we're judicious about who we choose as friends, just as your parents tell you when you're little. If you hang out with these kids, you're going to get in trouble. Or as my friend's father used to say when he came from Italy, you walk with someone with a limp long enough, you're going to start to limp. And the idea is that we're called to pray and discern that who we look up to. And if you are a father that or a godfather, you're called to hold that position in such honor that you're careful what you do, what witness you have for other people, because especially young people, because you're setting the standard for them. Pope Pius X was one of those people that was the Holy Father of the Church. He did lots of things to help reform the church. For example, at the time, sometimes people would go to communion once a year. And he said, this is not what God wanted. He wanted us to be fed spiritually as well as physically. He wouldn't want us to eat once a year. And he encouraged the more frequent reception of communion, even daily if possible. And he also lowered the age for the receipt of First Communion from 12 or 14 years old down to about 7, when kids have the sense of reason and they can begin to understand not just what they're receiving, but who they're receiving. Probably the greatest testament to him is his last will and testament. He said in his will, "I was born poor," and he was. He was the son of a cobbler, a shoemaker who had 8 children. "I was born poor, I lived poor, and I wish to die poor." And he lived his life that way, giving his money away to the missions and to people who were in need. We're all called to recognize that people watch whatever we do, whether you're male or female, whether you're a mother or a father, whether you're just an older brother or an older sister. We're called to give a good witness to what's important in life. With all the tragedy and trauma that's going on in the news every day, it's sometimes hard to not lose perspective. There's a video that's gone viral now, two Marines in Kabul at the airport, where tens of thousands of people were trying to get through the walls, and the walls are probably 10, 12 feet high with barbed wire on top. And there's a picture of a father holding his baby up to the Marines, and a Marine leaning out over the barbed wire with one of his friends holding on to him and grabbing the baby and lifting it up, taking it to the medics, and have the medics check the baby out and make sure that whatever was wrong with them, whatever sickness they had, whether they needed antibiotics or whatever they needed, that they would take care of them. Imagine the love and the trust that that father had to have in those Marines, to be willing to lift up his baby and give his baby away to someone who is a stranger, just trusting that I'm desperate, Lord, I need your help. And think of the courage of that Marine to reach over that fence, not knowing if he'd be tugged down into the crowd and beaten or killed, or if he'd be court-martialed for reaching over and bringing some baby into the compound without permission. He didn't care about court-martials. He didn't care about being reprimanded. He didn't care about if this baby had proper identification. He saw a child in need, and he reached down and grabbed him with that powerful hand as his friends passed that baby along to make sure that it was taken care of, just as if it was one of his own children. Don't you think that sometimes God reaches down and helps us? But in order to do that, sometimes we have to let go and be willing to lift up whatever is important to us, to let go of it, knowing that we commend it into the hands of a God who loves us more than we can begin to imagine. And so the lessons of this reading are twofold. One is that we have to trust that we have a Father in heaven, that if we let go of the things that we cling to, that he wants us to let go of, he'll reach down and take care of our every need. And second, the lesson is that while we're here on earth, we're all teachers, we're all parents, we're all models, and people watch us no matter what we do, even when we don't realize they're watching. So we have to make sure that, especially if we hold that revered title of Father, that we do so with great courage, with great compassion, and great respect for our Father in heaven.